Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then it said that the rights and the powers that we haven't given you are reserved to the states or the people.
Right.
And most people don't understand is everybody can have the same constitution, and every country around the world can be independent, can be its own country, and have the exact same structure of government.
Mm-hmm.
The individual state, if you take the entire population, this is the ideology by Thomas Jefferson when he was speaking about states' rights. If I remove all of the people out of a country or a state, then the state has no power. It has no seats, it has no parliament, it has nothing. So the power is really vested in the people, and that's why the word "or" was used and not the word "and," because there is no state without the people.
Now, I found this really interesting. When I was doing research, I watched some talks by Michael Badnarik, and I found him very enlightening. If anybody wants to go listen to him, he actually ran for president in 2004. Really wonderful man, and he was talking about how Jefferson was not really happy with the Constitution. He said this is just not limiting enough on the government, and he was pointing specifically to the judicial arm and said this is where they're going to sneak back in. The Crown is going to sneak back in here and co-opt, unravel everything that we've done. I can see it already. And I found it very fascinating that, they were very against a central bank because they knew, whoever controls the money controls the people. And, right away, the first president, the first Secretary of Treasury, Hamilton, and he didn't even want to put the Bill of Rights into the Constitution. He actually was fighting against creating the Bill of Rights. He was the first Secretary of Treasury, and what did he do? He set up a central bank. And, so I like to say, at least from where I'm sitting, it's almost as though the revolution for independence was immediately co-opted again. We just ended right back up, right back into the hands of the monarchy, the crown, when, these men fought really hard. They had great intelligence and gave us a republic which we could use, but, we had to fight to keep it and maintain it, stay alert and awake and constantly, the Constitution was a grantor trust, making the government the trustee. We are the grantors. We, the people, are the grantors and the beneficiaries of this trust. And the moment we see that the trustees are no longer trustworthy, it's our power to some people are calling for a full collapse of the trust. So I just like to make that point out there. So many times we go back to the Constitution and say it's this and that, but realize that many of our founding fathers said right from the get-go, it's not strong enough. They're going to come right back in, and they're going to weasel their way right back in and get full control of the people again. And look at where we're sitting. So, I'd like to go into some of the steps that they took afterwards. Like, for instance, Congress was made up is made up primarily of lawyers, which are part of the Bar Association, which stands for the British the British Accredited Registry or something to that effect. And here's the judicial arm that Jefferson was warning. It's not tight enough. And so they even tried to pass a 13th Amendment called the Title and Nobility Amendment, which apparently, according to Michael Badnarik, if you look into some history books, you can actually find that amendment written down, but somehow they just erased it. They erased it from history so that nobody knew about it because they said they're just coming right back in and they're taking full control, and we can't have this. This is our country. We need to take control of it.
I can get you to that point. Hamilton, believe it or not, in his personal writings, believed that George Washington should have been the king. So, there's a lot of misgivings and misunderstandings about what went on. And, I don't really know what to call him because I don't refer to myself with surnames or titles because those are all creations of a corporate world. Also, you don't have last names. You have family names. So basically what happened was and they attribute this, I'm pretty sure, I don't even pay attention to it because I know it isn't, the person who said it isn't really true. But I saw the quote in an old handmade diary where there was a lady who was waiting outside with her little children, and the Continental Congress was, closing its session and finalizing the forms of government. And the delegates were pouring out, and as they poured out, she was crying out to the delegates, wanting to talk to them and wanting to talk to one of them. And they were really busy men, and at the time, the status that women held at that time. And one of the particular men, I think they attribute it to Franklin, but I'm not completely positive he's the man who said it. But this person stopped and said, "Can I help you?" And she said, well, what do we have? Well, what did you gentlemen give us? And this person said, "A republic, my dear, if you can keep it."
Yep. They
were all quite clear to understand, and they definitely understood the restrictions that needed to be in place and how weak they were. And you were correct. The moment the ideological war has never come to a close. The British, the moment the Constitution was signed and sealed and delivered, and the actual shooting was over, the British realized, okay, we don't think we can win militarily. So we're going to try a different angle. And this is where the British Marxists, what's called the Fabian Marxist, is referred to. And you can look that up if you would like. But they use subversive tactics. They use trickery. They use lawyers in big flashy suits. And that's what they did. The British court, and it's really the BARC, British Aristocratical Royal Court. You are joining the royal family. It's not just a society. You are joining the court, the actual British crown, their royal court. So you're becoming a member of a separate country's nobility. And then you want to be a congressman in another country. So, but basically what happened was, as we go forward, they sent their lawyers across, and the lawyers started to argue the rights of companies or corporations. And through the judicial system, just as was feared, they started to gain momentum and weasel their way in. And, one of the main key things is to control the money. And people don't understand, before the Federal Reserve Bank, there was the West Indies Central Bank. There was the First Continental Central Bank. There was the Central Bank of the Colonies. Okay, so the British continued to try the central bank thing long before they got one to stick. And you can go through history and see that there were multiple presidents. You can even look at Jackson.
Yeah, he called them vipers.
And there was a speech of him, and he actually said on the steps that Satan himself could come up and eat his soul, but in the end he would give his dying breath to crush the banks and to rout them out of this country.
Wow, that's a statement. And that is why is that not why we're all in this? I mean, that is the key component to why we are all enslaved, running like rats on a wheel, in debt, because we did not protect, we did not keep alert and keep a limit on this. And no matter how many times the Founding Fathers warned us and warned us and warned us, do not let this happen, it happened anyway.
Well, some other things that we did incorrectly. See, most people, the people who formulated and created the idea or started to speak about human beings being independent, free individuals, they knew that these people on the other side of the spectrum, they thought one specific way. They did not think like us. They thought that whatever God put them here made them in charge, and they owned everybody else. And that really didn't sit well with a lot of people, and that's what started the ball rolling. But in all sensitive effects of the words, it's us. We did this. We as people, not only in America but in other countries, have allowed this to happen because we live in fear, do whatever. But the judicial system, where Jefferson made the mistake, is he didn't understand take the individual human concept and put it into the judicial system. If the individual human is the sovereign entity over a social structured activity like court, well, then you have things like jury nullification, where one jury can nullify an entire law, and not only do that, and through that system you can nullify the law, you can prosecute any public official, any public servant. I mean, there's so much you can do. The law was left open-ended if you look at Adams and some other people, and they said, should the people choose to continue to carry on the thrive for the human mind to grow and be free, they can use these courts to destroy all enemies.
Right.
And he